My detective character, Lewis Cranshaw, is a former academic and scholar turned private detective, and his office aims to be a reflection of this transition. He's only recently moved into the space, with the boxes at the back of the room and multiple suitcases alluding to this. The scene is set in London, England from the 1880s to early 1900s, and is inspired by the steampunk aesthetic, a combination of Victorian elements and modern technology. The building was constructed in 1880 and is therefore still a fairly new structure, not showing any evident signs of wear, though the brick wall might suggest that the area has been divided. The story revolves around Cranshaw's involvement in a missing persons case. The main indicator for the steampunk setting is the furniture and decor I selected for Cranshaw's office. The device in the far corner, globe hologram, gramophone and telescope, help to convey Cranshaw's strong relationship with and passion for technology, as well as demonstrating that this game is set in an alternate past. The mix of old, heavy timber-style furniture, like his desk, large door frame and Chesterfield chair, with seemingly new futuristic items helps to immediately define the game's aesthetic. The wallpaper and flooring also connect back to the Victorian period, assisting the player in assuming the game's location as England. The posters on the wall appear to be dance or club advertisements, suggesting Cranshaw's age to be somewhere in his mid to early 20s. Because they are significantly torn, this could indicate that Cranshaw treasures these items despite their age, acting as a memory or marker for some important past event, or possibly even the start of a relationship. The blinds are up only slightly on each of the windows, showing that Cranshaw gives thought to privacy considering the possible need for secrecy associated with his occupation. As the telescope is directed up through the skylight, this could hint to the player that the story might take Cranshaw to places outside his world, as is also supported by the celestial sketches on the blackboards. The distance between the telescope and his desk could suggest that he spends most of his time between the two, identifying a key hobby and some association between astronomy and his detective work. The player would notice the time of day through the windows and skylight too, which in this scene is nighttime or dusk given the stars and dark sky. Upon entering the room, the player would notice the papers strewn across the floor near the desk and the muddy footprints beside the door, possibly suggesting that Cranshaw left in a hurry, especially given that the rest of his office is fairly neat and tidy, or that he is often frazzled or clumsy, yet not untidy. There is a broken pot beside a suitcase, which again adds to the sense that his departure was frantic and hurried. On the left and far right wall are blackboards with detailed diagrams and information. These are included to reinforce Cranshaw's history as an academic and to highlight how these roles have blended with his new occupation as a private detective. These additions help show to the player that perhaps he has taken on cases because of his extensive knowledge or because of their connection to a personal interest. The large number of books also infer Cranshaw's likely intellect and intelligence, indicating to the player that he is a more logical and organised type, as the books are shelved neatly and not scattered across the room. While there are bottles and containers for whiskey, wine, coffee and tea featured on these shelves also, the player can assume that these are more for decoration or guest, given the distance between these and Cranshaw's desk. As there is also an angled chair opposite Cranshaw's, the player further understands that it would be common for him to have visitors, and so this notion is further justified while also showing that he does not act in complete isolation. The choice of warm lighting for the scene underscores to the player that this office is essentially a home to Cranshaw. His work is integral to his lifestyle. The space feels cozy and lived in, as emphasised by the firewood in the fireplace and blankets beside it, angled rug and the satchel and jacket hanging on the coat rack. The presence of these items could suggest that Cranshaw spends most of his time here, the blankets and firewood possibly alluding to long nights poring over reports. The gramophone further underlines this, showing that he may even play music while working, again reinforcing the homely nature of his office and implying the sense of fulfillment he gains from his work. As for the decoration on the fireplace, the face-down photo frame demonstrates to the player that Cranshaw must have some memories or connections that he would rather not dwell on. Yet his inability to remove the frame and thus the photo altogether would suggest that he does not want whoever is pictured completely absent from his life. In my mind, this person is a parent with whom he severed all ties due to a major falling out, though the player might not necessarily understand this in the game immediately. The fact that these are high up on the mantle could also symbolise the power these people have over Cranshaw, or the hierarchy associated with his relationship with them. The fact that his office is on the highest floor due to the skylight could indicate that he comes from a wealthy background or simply lives without financial struggle, and this is also supported by how his furniture is not obviously worn and how he possesses sophisticated technology. Having come from an academic background, it is also just generally likely that he has wealthy heritage and has not often experienced financial struggle given the time period. As with the rest of his office, Cranshaw's desk is organised and tidy. There is also an empty holster on the desk, which could be a sign that Cranshaw is currently armed. The telephone shows that he is proactive in his role in taking on cases, since it is within arm's reach of his chair, and the empty cigar box and ashtray would suggest that smoking is a persistent habit, or even an addiction, which is most commonly succumbed to while at his desk completing work. Overall, Cranshaw's office is ultimately a reflection of his roles and personal history, and acts as a hint for where the story might take his character, the relationships he has developed and later broken.